السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الخلق أجمعين، نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه والتابعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين وبعد. All praise is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Blessings and salutations upon the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless him, to bless his entire family, to bless all his companions, to bless those who have struggled and strive to bring the deen to us, and to bless every single one of us and those to come up to the end of time. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep us all on the deen. So inshallah, tonight we are going to have an important talk on the Sabbath breakers. To begin, I'd like Taskin to recite a few verses from the Holy Quran.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وثمود الذين جابوا الصخر بالواد وفرعون ذي الأوتاد الذين طغوا في البلاد فأكثروا فيها الفساد فصب عليهم ربك صوت عذاب إن ربك لبالمرصاد فأما الإنسان إذا ما ابتلاه ربه فأكرمه ونعمه فيقول ربي أكرمن وأما إذا ما ابتلاه فقدر عليه رزقه فيقول ربي أهانن. صدق الله العظيم.
Jazakumullah khairan for that recitation of Surah Fajr. And Surah Fajr, it is the 89th Surah of the Quran. And he started off with, وَثَمُودَ الَّذِي جَابُوا الصَّخْرَ بِالْوَادِ, and the people of Thamud who carved their homes into the rocks in the stone valley. They were much, much bigger than us, much, much stronger than us, and to a certain degree, much more conscious than us in terms of their ability to build. And even then, with all of this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroyed them. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes on to say, وَفِرْعَوْنَ ذِي الْأَوْتَادِ, and Fir'aun with his mighty structures. الَّذِينَ طَغَوْا فِي الْبِلَادِ, that these are the ones that transgressed against the boundaries of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, what is the recurring theme over here? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the people of power. These are clearly people who are very intelligent. These are people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave a lot of money to. Yet, even though with these three things, power, intelligence, and money, they were not able to protect themselves from the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when they just transgressed against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroyed them. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَأَكْثَرُوا فِيهَا الْفَسَادِ, that these are the individuals that caused the greatest amount of corruption on the earth. Even though they had all these three resources, they used the resources for evil rather than good. فَصَبَّ عَلَيْهِمْ رَبُّكَ صَوْتَ عَذَابٍ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is referring to the Quraysh again over here. That your Lord, He destroyed them with one blow. That with one strong, mightiful blow, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroyed them all. Now here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, showing His strength, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroyed these mighty, powerful, rich, intellectual nations with one blow. No second effort was needed. No extra time was needed. One blow was given, and these people were destroyed. And that is the power of the verse. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us in this verse, now how does the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala come? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inna rabbaka labil mirsad. For your Lord is truly vigilant. Mirsad over here, it means watchful. Now what type of watchful are we referring to? And mirsad is that you are watchful. You are looking at what your enemies are doing. And then you take them by surprise. You take them when they least expect it. This is what the term mirsad actually means. So not only is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ever watchful, but it is when the enemy becomes heedless the most that he's taken by surprise by the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So did these people not think that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would not hold them accountable? And this is like, even though it has a very negative connotation, but for the believer, it has a very positive connotation as well. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ever watchful of the oppression that is going on across the world. Wherever you want to look, Muslims are being oppressed. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells us over here that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is carefully watching, and when the enemy least expect it, that is when the victory of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will come. And this is while it is an aversive threat for the transgressors. This is a verse of rejoice for the believers that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring that victory when they least expect it. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes on to talk about the mentality of mankind and how human beings in general have this misconception that if I have strength, if I have power, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed me. However, if I don't have strength, if I don't have riches, if I don't have power, that must mean that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is testing me. Allah goes on to say, فَأَمَّا الْإِنسَانُ إِذَا مَا ابْتَلَاهُ رَبُّهُ فَأَكْرَمَهُ وَنَعَمَهُ فَيَقُولُ رَبِّي أَكْرَمَنِ. And this is what Allah mentions in these two verses. So in this verse, as for man, when his Lord tries him by giving him honor and giving him bounties, that he says, my Lord has honored me. So from our perspective, if we have riches, if we have honor and power, this is when we feel as if Allah has honored us, that we are the chosen people by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is a very important concept that if you look at what led astray throughout times, is when they felt that they were the chosen people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you will find this in certain forms of Christianity. They believe that to be the children of God. You look at in certain forms of Judaism, they believe that they're the chosen people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You'll find this in Hinduism, and even amongst Muslims, you'll find this concept of exclusivity. And this type of mentality is very dangerous. Because even though Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given these people power and given them bounties, it doesn't mean that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has favored them. Because if you look at the beginning of this verse, مَبَتَلَاهُ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is indeed testing them. So life as a whole is one big test. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you something, it doesn't mean that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has favored you. But it just means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is testing you differently than He's testing everyone else. And this is what we see in the next verse as well. وَأَمَّا إِذَا مَا ابْتَلَاهُ فَقَدَرَ عَلَيْهِ رِزْقَهُ فَيَقُولُ رَبِّي أَهَانَنِ. But when he tests them by limiting their provision, their protest, my Lord has undeservingly humiliated me. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala withholds that risk, when Allah doesn't give you that power and might, as a human being, you will feel that Allah has humiliated you, when in reality, that's not the case. Perhaps an individual will be in shabby clothes, will not have much power, will not have much riches. But with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is the most noble of people. Whereas, the other hand, a person may have the utmost of power, the most amount of money, the most amount of respect and fear of the people, but in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he could be the most degraded and the most debased of individuals. And with this, I would like to conclude. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala encompass us in His mercy, forgive us for shortcomings, and make us of those people who are entered into Jannah due to the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ameen.